don't already know me, my name is Justine, and I'm the Communications and Support Coordinator at CaFÉ. And I'm excited to have you all in our webinar today. So today I will be answering questions you submitted to us for our Q&A. Thank you to those who submitted questions. That was very helpful. It's helpful not only for our webinar, but having your feedback helps us understand how to continually improve CaFÉ. And we've got some exciting changes coming up in the next year, and we are, excited to roll those out. So the key items that we'll discuss today that were submitted to us were info about uploading floor plans and legal agreements, defining the different custom form question types, using categories, using the incomplete and exception statuses. We'll talk about how to sort the downloadable reports in CaFÉ, and we'll also talk about how to allow artists to archive their images after the call is done. So those are the topics being discussed. If you're already an expert on them, stick around because you might get some tips and tricks anyway. I've ordered the questions submitted somewhat in the same order as you'll set up your call and go through the submission process. So we'll start with questions that pertain to setting up your call template and application so it's all ready for artists to fill out. And with that, we'll start with our first question. I'll start by answering the first part about the floor plan. And to show you what this all is, since not too many folks use it, I will go to our call here, and I'll go to the call editor. And on the event information tab underneath the logo area is the floor plan and floor and site plan image. This will appear on the call's description. I'm going to preview the description here, and you can see this is where if you upload a floor plan image, you'll see on the call listing page. So it'll be here, and folks can click on this to be taken to a separate link to view the PDF or image that you uploaded. The accepted formats for this floor plan are PDF and JPEG only. Actually, if I delete this, I'll show you what it looks like. This is the requirements here: no larger than 2 megabytes and JPEG and PDF file only. So that means you can't upload a website address for the floor plan, but there is a way to kind of work around that. I've seen folks in the past do this, and it seems pretty easy to do. Basically, in our long description here, what you can do is, I've got an example here. You can type in view site plan or view floor plan or whatever text you'd like. And then you basically can highlight the text and click this link button here to add a hyperlink. And then you'll type in the website address. I've just got our website on here because I don't have a URL with a floor plan, but you can do that. You click OK, and then this text would then be hyperlinked. So in the long description, I'll go back to the front end side, and you go to the bottom or wherever you've inserted it, you can see that this blue text here is hyperlinked and would take you to the website address, which I've just got as our website here. But that's an option for you if you want to upload a website address in place of the floor plan. And so this is also, where you can insert. This tool is where you could also use to put a website address for any part of your long description. As for the legal agreement part of the question, the legal agreement is this text box here on the call editor where you put your terms and conditions for artists to apply. And this does not, unfortunately, allow you to add any files such as a PDF or any website links. We recommend copying and pasting the text to your legal agreement here so that the artist can read it before agreeing to it and before applying to your call. So as you can see on the artist side here, if they go to apply to a call and they say apply now, they'll be taken to the legal agreement, and this is where it's pasted from that call editor box. And they must agree to it in order to be taken to the application page. If you did want to include, any supplemental information such as a PDF, you would be able to do so using the same method of inserting a link in the long description. You can say, view the full legal agreement here and have a link. It'd have to be, if you wanted a PDF, you'd have to convert it to a URL first, since you wouldn't be able to upload a file that could then be downloaded from this area here. I'd also recommend, if you do this method, to include language in the text of your actual legal agreement here to refer to the link's call description for the full legal text. So I'll bring everyone up to speed by quickly reviewing that there are several different types of questions you can set up in the Application Editor tab of the Call Editor. Underneath the artist statement options here, you'll see the table where you'll set up the questions. Under the type column here, you'll see the drop-down menu and the list of question types that are available. So I'll go over what each question type means and how to set them up, but first I will show you where you can find the information if you need a refresher on the definition of each question type. So to find this information, you'll just go to the Help tab, and you'll click on, once it loads, you'll click on the General User Guide here. This will take you to our Google Doc form of the user guide. And underneath the Application Form Editor here, you can click on that, you'll see the question type section. And then this will give you the definitions to the question types. So if you need a refresher on which one they all mean and what question types do what, you can find those definitions here. I'll also let you know that one of the changes we have coming up pretty soon here is a new help center. So this will all this information, instead of on Google Docs, will be on our website, and it'll be searchable. So that's some exciting change that you're first hearing about now. So that will come out in the next couple months or so, so be on the lookout for that. So I will now go back to the Call Editor, and we'll go over these question types. On my sample call here, you'll see that I've set up a question for each type, and I'll show you how each of these look on the artist side as well. So first, the text option allows you to ask applicants to type their answer in a text box. So you can use this type for open-ended questions. When you build this question, you can select to have a maximum character limit, or you can choose no limit. Just a reminder that when you build this question, you need to write out the question in the first text box here. The title you entered on the previous page, which is listed above, is internal only and cannot be seen by the artist. So you want to make sure that you go into the question editor here and type out your question in this first text box. If you don't do that, the artist won't know what the question is. So to view a preview of this question, you can go to the application editor again on the bottom where it says preview application questions. You can click that to be taken to what the artist side will look like. And as you can see, that the text box question here is, as it says, is just a text box. So that one's the pretty simple one. We'll go to the next question type, which is the checkbox type. The checkbox type will allow applicants to select one or more answers from a group of options. When you first build this question, so let's say I was building a question here and I choose checkbox, I would choose the number of answer options I want available. And then when you go to the question editor, which I'll go here, you will see the fields where you can type in the different answer options. So again, you'll type your question in the first text box and then write out the individual answer options in each of the fields below. You can change the order of these options if you need. If you don't want to retype them, you can change the order by changing the priority. And you can delete them by checking remove and then click update question. You can check any of these to have them pre-selected, but those aren't typically used unless you're trying to get your artist to sign up for something. So make sure you just click update question to change those any of those settings to the question type. You'll see on the preview here that the checkbox is pretty standard. It allows the artist to select multiple answers, and they can just check to deselect. So the radio type next is the next one here, radio button. This one is like the checkbox question, but only allows applicants to choose one answer from your set of options. This is usually good for yes/no questions or questions where you know only one answer will be applicable. So again, choose your total number of options from the drop-down menu, and then when you go in to customize it, you can put those in there. And then it looks the same on this side, but if you go to the preview, you'll see that the radio button only allows one answer to be selected. So good for yes/no questions. Okay, so yeah, to recap those last two, checkbox, multiple answer options that they can select multiple from. Radio, they can only select one from. The next one we have is the drop-down list. Let me get back there. The drop-down list is similar to checkbox and radio button, but will only allow one answer, but it'll appear as a drop-down list. So this might be good if you have a lot of different options you need to choose from, or maybe it looks better so you want to clean it up. You can use a drop-down list instead. So the question editor again looks a lot like checkbox and radio button, but when you go to preview the question, you'll see that it's a drop-down list. So depending on how you like the look of your application, you can choose this as opposed to the radio button. Again, only one answer can be selected for this one. Okay, so the final question type that actually collects answer is the file upload format. So we'll go back again. So the file upload format allows artists to upload a file, and it's important to note that these files that are uploaded by the artist cannot be larger than 2 megabytes and must be one of the accepted formats, which is basically text, PDF, Word document, Excel spreadsheet, or JPEG. This upload feature works well for documents like a resume, full biography, brief manuscript, or any other proposal documents you need. Because of the file size requirement, keep in mind that you might not be able to collect lengthy proposal documents or large file PDFs. When you build this question, you'll see the file size and format requirements will automatically be uploaded in this text box here. This is the information text box, and this is automatically here so the artist knows what formats are acceptable to upload for that question. On the preview, you'll see that the information in this text box is appearing as a help bubble. So when they click on that, that's where they can find the file requirements. They can choose the button here on their side to upload a file from their computer. And then there's one other question type that's not so much a question, but it allows you to create another format for your application. The informational only type here. So this allows you to enter instruction or informational only text that does not require an answer from the applicant. This is good for giving additional info about your call or to set up reasons for why you're collecting certain pieces of information. Some also use this to include information directly above the media requirements, and I'll show you that in a second, where they can reiterate what is required before the applicant reaches that section. So when I go to the question editor for this, you'll see that it looks like any other question with 2 text boxes. This is the initial information you'll provide, and then if you wanted to include other info as well as a help bubble like we saw before, you can enter it in the second text box here. Here the priority will be important because you may want the information to be in certain order on the application page. So for example, if you wanted to provide info about the media requirements, you'd want to make sure that the priority is in the order for which the information will appear last on the page. So you can see here on the preview, I've got it priority 6 because that's my 6th question. That means it's going to be on the bottom of the preview page on the application page. And this allows the artist to read this information before they go submit their work samples to the work sample section. That is the last question type. Just to remind you, as I've been showing you this preview here, to make sure everything looks good after you set up all your questions, just be sure to click the preview applications link down here at the bottom of the page. That way you can be taken to the preview and you can make sure that all of your questions are written out. You've got your answer options set up, you've got the order the way you want it, and this is a helpful tool to make sure that you have it ready to go. So the categories editor is also on the application editor tab of the call editor. The categories here allows you to build a list of category options that applicants can select. Applicants will select their category of choice from the list of options, and then jurors will be able to view and score by the category. It's a simple way to organize your applications if you need to separate them out. For example, if you're running a public art call and have multiple location options for the artist to submit designs for, you can set up a category for each location so that the artist can indicate which site the design is for. This will then allow you to sort and view the applications by the location. Other examples include using categories to separate by medium type, like I have it set up a little bit here, maybe member status or artist location, eligibility, something like that, where you want to make sure you separate those groups of artists or applications. You can see on the event management page here real quick how each application, I'll go to the received status, each application will be marked by their category. You can actually change a category on behalf of the artist if you know they selected the wrong one, or maybe you're organizing it yourself and you need to select different categories. You can also sort in this search box here by category. So let's say I want to look at just our 2D folks. You can click go and it'll sort by just the folks in that category I selected. Keep in mind that if your call type is by artist, so if you're using jury by artist, the artist will select one category for the entire application because it's grouped together as a body of work. If your application is jury by artwork, the artist will select one category for each of their entries since it's going to be separated out anyway. Like I said, they're set up here. So you can enter a new category here and click add category. You can also delete them from here, and edit here is actually the save button. So let's say I needed to make a change here, I can just click edit to actually change the name of that category. So our next set of questions will address the processes that take place after your call is live. This is a great question, and this is giving me the opportunity to go over the incomplete and the exception statuses. So I'll go over the possible technical errors that may occur when using the incomplete and exception statuses, but first I will review what those two mean. So we'll go to the Events Management tab just to show you the status names. If you need to allow an applicant to edit an entry after they submitted, you'll need to change their application status to either incomplete or exception. The difference between the two is that to allow an entry to be modified before the deadline date of the application passes, so before your call closes, you need to put them in the incomplete status. And then to allow an entry to be modified after the call deadline has passed, you would put them in the exception status. So there are a few other differences between the incomplete and exception statuses, which may explain why some of the submissions cannot be modified by the artist. First of all, you'll want to be mindful of your jury status. And even though you might not be in the jury process yet, this can have an effect. So if your call deadline has not yet passed and you have an artist in the incomplete status, and then let's say even though your call hasn't closed yet, you wanted to preview as a juror and you changed your jury status to in progress, just to let you know, this actually won't have an effect on the ability to make changes using the incomplete status. So as you can see in our call, I'll go back, that we do have an application in the incomplete and our jury status is in progress. So I'll go to the artist side here. Okay, so on the entries page, you can see here that we've got an application in the incomplete status. And even though our jury status is in progress, she's still able to modify the application. They can go in there, make any changes. Once they make their change, they can save it and then resubmit it. And I can do that here where it changes and then it'll change to received. Yep, you'll see now that she's not in incomplete anymore, she's in the received status. So now let's take a look at an example using the exception status. So I'm going to switch to a call that has its deadline in the past. And then you can see I have our artist in the exception status here. Keep in mind that our current jury status is not yet started. So let's say the call deadline just passed, they need to make a change before the jury starts. That's fine, keep it in not yet started. The artist will be able to go in here, and you can see that this is the one that's in exception status. Even though the deadline is passed, you can go in and modify it. Now let's go back here, and let's say I am ready to start my jury, but the artist hasn't made their modification yet, but they're an exception. If I end up going to this and setting it in progress and saving it, and I refresh the artist side, you'll see that they're no longer able to make that modification. So if you're using the exception status, this is one example where you have to remember to allow those modifications to happen before you change your jury status to in progress. You'll want to make sure that it's still not yet started. Okay, so another consideration you should take into account when allowing an artist to modify their application is your jury type. So if your call is jury by artist and the artist application is either in the incomplete or exception status, they will be able to add or remove images from their entry within the maximum and minimum requirements. I guess I already put them there. This is an example here with our exception status application. This is a jury by artist call, so you can see that they're able to add or remove as many different images as they'd like within the maximum and minimum requirements. However, let's say that this was a jury by artwork call. It would only allow me to select one, it would only allow me to replace. So if I only had one image selected for a jury by artwork call and the artist goes in to maybe add a second one, it wouldn't allow her to add this second one, even if it allowed 1 to 6 images. And that's because the artist would have already submitted their number of images, paid the applicable entry fees. So because we can't change those or add another media fee to their account, they're not able to add or remove images. The workaround for this is to have the artist add another image to this kind of, is to create a new account to add another image to the call. They would just sign up for CaFÉ. They can use their same email address, but they would have to create a new account. So the next one is related to the reports that you can pull from the Events Management tab. The answer is yes. You can sort the applications on the reports. So to do this, you'll first go to the Events Management tab like we're in right now and click on the status of the applications you need. This will pull up the applications table, which will default to sort by the date that their entries were submitted. So you can see here that we've got it, it's not sorted by last name, but it's sorted by when they submitted. So before downloading the reports, you can actually just click on the header of the table, header of the column that you want to sort by. So not all of these headers are clickable, but you can sort by most of them. So for example, if you want to sort by last name, you can click on last name and that'll sort it A to Z. You can then click on one of the report type options, any of these. I'm going to click on this PDF one. And then when you go to open it, you'll see that it's listed by last name here. It's sorted by last name. So that is a way to sort it before. Just make sure you sort the table and then download the report. That was an easy question to answer. So moving on to our final question. The do not allow artists to archive setting is in the call editor under the event information tab. So you may have seen it hanging out here before, but the setting is right here. Do not allow artists to archive, and you'll see how it's active. This setting should be active during most of the duration of your call. Now, if you remember from the jury process, the last step you need to take after emailing the artist of their results is to go to your jury tab and set your jury status to complete. So setting your jury status to complete means that the artist will then be able to archive their entries from their CaFÉ account. Until you take this step of setting it to complete, the artist will not be able to make their changes to their portfolio image that are already committed to your call. So going back to what actually the do not allow artists to archive setting means, when you change this jury status and save it, change it to complete and save, then you go back to your call editor. Now you'll see that the do not allow artists to archive setting is disabled. So this change happens automatically. And then you can see here, if I refresh our artist page, she's now able to archive the entries to this call. Here. The do not allow artists to archive setting is simply a technical setting that in the system that has to be changed to physically allow the artist to archive their entries, but you shouldn't have to worry about it as long as you set your jury status to complete. That being said, it's always a good idea to double check that this did change automatically from active to disabled. It didn't used to happen automatically, so just be sure that this is set. Well, that is the final answer in our Q&A session. I appreciate everyone joining today's webinar. Is there a way to score artists on the jury page, I think is what you're asking. No, you can't score, but right now you can't sort either. You can filter by categories or depending on the jury type. Sometimes you can, if there's already scores in here by multiple juries, you can sort by score. But in the future, I believe our changes to the system that we're working on right now, not sure when they'll be available, is to be able to sort on the jury administration page. Thanks for joining, and be sure to join us next month.